Welcome to Zarnia for Games and Geekery. This is Bored to be Wild. I'm Jon.
I'm Adhil.
And I'm the Invisible Man.
Who said that?
I did. No, don't you do that.
My finger.
Ow!
And we will be exploring a game on player violence.
Called Unmatched, oddly enough.
It's called Cobble and Fogg from the Unmatched series. Let's be serious about it. In this game, you take the role of one of these four figures from Victorian literature. We have...
The Invisible Man.
All right, do you want to tell us anything about the Invisible Man?
I'm invisible. Means I can't be seen, Jon.
Expressive. And we also have Sherlock Holmes, a detective, a master of strategy and
Ably
deduction.
assisted by Dr. Watson.
By Dr. Watson, who doesn't get a mini, but is still very much present in the game.
He has a little piece.
Yeah.
And then there's good old vampire guy.
Dracula and his three sisters, or three brides, or three daughters, we're not quite sure.
And then I think my favorite of the lot is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, two personalities, one body.
What a body it is. These are great little miniatures, and I think that's one of the things that strikes you with this game. You open the box and they're, pre-painted. They've got a little bit of what do you call it, ink on them.
A wash on them.
Yeah, a bit of a wash on them, and they look really good on the board.
Yeah, I think the design overall of the game is very great. All the little tokens, the color coding that they've done with each of them, the blue, the yellow, the red, and the lovely kind of black and white, but with one highlight accent color. To go on things. It really just gives it a very distinctive look.
So I think what they've had to do to make it a little bit more interesting is to make them asymmetric, in that each of the characters plays slightly differently. In terms of the assistants that we've been talking about, they have something extra that they allow your character to do. The Invisible Man, for example, has the fog tokens, which are his assistants, and that allows him to teleport from one place to another.
While Holmes has Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson has a gun.
He does.
Yeah, that's about it. That's Dr. Watson's role.
So he
shoots people.
Range.
Yeah, shooting people is quite a skill, I can assure you. Dracula has his bevy of three, which will help him to do extra damage, and also can be sacrificed quite easily.
And he does a lot of damage himself.
He does a lot of damage himself. He's a badass. And then Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, well, they have each other.
Well, I like the idea that so instead of having an additional assistant, so someone else on the board, he literally becomes his alter ego. Mm-hmm. So it's the same character, the same miniature, but it changes the nature of what he's able to do.
So let's talk a little bit about what they're actually able to do and how this game works. Each character has a deck.
And it's not a deck builder per se, so you're not adding cards to the deck, but you are drawing cards off of the deck every turn, and you're able to play them out. So there are three different actions that you can take. One is to maneuver, which allows you to draw a card and then move your fighters, and you might have multiples or just one, and you can move them a number of spaces, and you can boost that by discarding cards. Scheming allows you to play cards which have their own actions on them, so things that you can do during the game.
These are usually the buffs, the strategies, the ones that really get you in like the good position to just execute your coup de grace, or your enemy, whichever.
To that point, attacking is the last thing you can do. So you can either use a card that has an attack symbol or a defense symbol, and so the ones that have an attack and a defense symbol is what I meant.
Then you can't just use a defense thing.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, this guy, it's like amateur hour. How do we even work with him?
I don't know. I think he's getting there.
Okay, so you can then play these various cards. These cards are mostly themed around your character. So, for instance, Dr. Jekyll can play a distracted triage in order to regain health.
What I really liked about Sherlock Holmes' character was that they've kind of found a way to incorporate the idea of using his intellect. So his intellect is to try and deduct what's in your hand And in some cases, they're cards that allow him to actually take a look at the opponent's hand, to make them discard certain cards or to force them into playing certain cards. I really like that idea that he can use his powers of deduction.
Yeah, it's great that this is not just like a cosmetic theme, because like the art is great, the minis are cool, and they could have stopped there and then just had everyone play basically the same. But no, deeply intrinsically are how these characters fight against each other plays into their character. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde can discard Jekyll cards, the Doctor cards, in order to boost his damage. This is sacrificing his good side, his humanity, in order to do more damage. It's thematically very on point.
So the other thing that makes it kind of thematic is that the board is double-sided as well. So the one side you're fighting on Victorian street, on the rooftops and through the alleyways, and the other side you're in a kind of manor house where you're in the yard and then going into the inside of the
and secret little secret pathways,
secret
passageways, stuff like that. Pretty cool. But I did find that I was getting kind of stuck in a little bit of like a slog. I felt like, okay, the strategy is I run up to you and I use the cards that I can to damage you as much as possible, which is maybe why I kept on losing.
And the game itself is relatively simple, right? So it doesn't take super long. Maybe it's not a filler game, so it's not 15 minutes, but it's going to take a bit longer than that. And you might think that, I'm going to try and be very sneaky, and I'm going to try and use all this strategy, etc. But actually, in the end, it is a bit of cat and mouse, and you are chasing after the other. You're trying to reduce their life total to 0 while at the same time you kind of keep a bit of life for yourself. So it's not a super complicated game. And part of what I like about the series and about the idea of behind it is you don't just have these 4 characters.
I mean, we only do.
Well, in this box you do, but if you can buy one of the others, you could fight against Bruce Lee, or you could fight against Robin Hood, or a number of different characters from other literature.
So the Unmatched series basically builds up or like matching up different characters.
Sort of unlikely characters, yeah.
Well, unlikely. I mean, yeah. So, like thematically, this one, Victorian horror. Other ones, martial arts legends or mythic creatures. You can play Bigfoot, all kinds of stuff. So if you really wanted to have a real throwdown, you could have had Sherlock Holmes on the side of Bigfoot fighting Bruce Lee and Dracula.
In terms of the aesthetics, I think the rulebook deserves its own mention. It is very, very well laid out. It's got some amazing pictures in it. It's got little adverts, classifieds for the Invisible Man's hattery, very thematic. And it's got little adverts for future sets around the Unmatched series. I think it's extremely well done.
But there are a lot of various rules, and sometimes I got a little bit confused on the points of the finer points of order on how to play. Because everything is asymmetrical, you can't just take a standard set of rules and apply to all of them. Everyone has their own minions and their own special edge cases that don't quite fit into how you play.
I think that's a fair point. And with asymmetric games, you're always going to have a little bit of a rules overhead there, because each person has to learn something unique. And it's only really once you've played the game a few times with the different characters that you truly start to understand all the strategies. As soon as I'd finished playing with one of the characters, I was dead keen to try one of the others.
Yeah,
right?
That's because you won.
Well,
I lost every game I played.
And I do enjoy a good sort of game that involves decks of cards. So for me, it was using the kind of card advantage. It was a bit reminiscent of playing a game of Magic, so I was sort of in my happy space there. And I think it's a little bit, maybe there's a bit too much conflict.
Our dark rivalry has really surpassed to the next level there.
Yeah, now we're just gonna throw up our fists.
When I attempted to rip out your throat while surrounded by my vampire minions,
yes.
I hope you didn't.
Which didn't quite work for you, did it?
No, it didn't work for me at all. I would listen, okay, he is an ancient evil and he's got these ancient minions. Sherlock Holmes is just a guy who's smart. Yeah. That's it.
Well, he outsmarted Dracula.
Dracula is smarter. This guy is a scientist who invented a way to split the human personality. That guy is invisible. That guy's just smart, and the other one has a gun.
I didn't even use the gun.
That's not. What do you mean you didn't use the
He
gun?
didn't even use the gun.
Why didn't you use the gun?
Never came up.
Really? You never shot anyone?
Never came up.
Never shot anyone in this game.
Didn't need to.
Using a gun against me is not possible because you can't see me.
Exactly. I had to outwit him.
Wait a minute. So that invisible man has, you can not see him, but you can see his hat and his.
Well, I am naked, otherwise I wouldn't be invisible. Duh. It's not like I'm the invisible man wearing clothes that are also invisible.
I didn't need that picture in my head.
There's no picture. It's blank.
Yeah, okay.
I don't
I'm
know
going
why
to move a
so
little bit this
uncomfortable.
way.
All right.
Jeez.
Jeez. Okay. This guy.
I'm going now. I know and I'm not appreciated.
Okay. Well, cool. I like this show better when it was only just the two of us anyway. If you agree with that, please like, subscribe, share, and let us know in your comments about your most recent brush with some kind of vampiric force of evil and whether you think it could have been defeated by a smart guy and a guy with a gun.
Or the invisible man. Well, I didn't go anywhere. I'm standing right behind you.
All right.
There was an interview with Thierry Henry. They asked him, what would you have been if you weren't a professional soccer player? He said, well, an amateur soccer player.